Snow fell in slow curtains over downtown Chicago, softening the hard lines of glass and concrete. On a corner near the river, the windows of the Copper Finch glowed against the dark fogged by heat and breath. Eli, Walker pushed through the back door with a crate of wine hugged to his chest. Warm air hit his face. Oil snapped in pans. Knives struck cutting boards. Someone called for more plates. Someone else hummed along with the old jazz station the line cooks kept low in the background. The kitchen smelled rich. Garlic butter, roast meat, tomato. Eli paused beside the steel prep table and tried to catch it. Nothing, just steam on his skin. Any change, the sous chef asked, stirring the sauce. Nope. Eli set the crate down. Glass clinked, still all background. Front of house wants you. Marco is pacing. When is he not? Eli wiped his hands on a towel, straightened his black shirt and tie, and pushed through the swinging door. The dining room wrapped around him in low light. Amber lamps washed the room in gold. White tablecloths broke the dark into neat islands. Candles flickered in simple glass cups. Soft piano floated over the murmur of voices and the occasional clink of ice in a glass. Chicago wind rattled faintly against the windows. In here, the air was warm and dry. Eli crossed to table 12 to refill a water glass and check a steak with a quick glance. Pink at the center. Good. The man eating it barely looked up when Eli asked how everything tasted. Invisible was fine. Invisible kept him employed. Eli, Marco DeLuca's voice cut through the noise. Marco stood near the bar, one hand on the wood eyes moving restlessly from table to table. His silver hair was combed back. His suit jacket hung open, his tie already loosened. Eli stepped over. You called. Marco tipped his chin toward the far corner. You see that? A long table sat under its own pool of light. 8 places, extra wine glasses, a low runner of bare branches and tiny red berries. At the head, a blonde woman in a red dress listened as a man in a dark suit talked close to her ear. That is Sterling Dynamics, Marco said. That is Kate Sterling. The guy next to her is Damian Cole. He and his friends move numbers with a phone call. So, tonight we are flawless. No cold plates, no empty glasses, no one tripping over a guest. Understand? I understand, Eli said. Good. Marco looked him over, face softening for a moment. You do solid work. Just remember who is sitting there. He moved off toward a table waving for another bottle of wine. Eli went to the server's station, picked up a tray and started loading it with chilled water glasses. Condensation beaded on the sides, slick under his fingers. His phone buzzed. He shifted behind a column, pulled it free and swiped to answer. Maddie's face filled the screen, cheeks flushed, curls escaping a messy ponytail. Paper snowflakes hung on the wall behind her, taped in a crooked line. Dad, look, she said, turning the camera. The view swung to their Christmas tree. It was short and a little sparse, a fake pine that leaned a bit to the left. The lights blinked unevenly. Popsicle stick frames and glitter stars crowded the lower branches. You did all that Eli asked. Me and Mrs. Henderson, Maddie said. She held the lights. I did the important part. Looks good, he said. Better than last year. Yeah. She hesitated. Are you coming home before Santa? He knew the answer. Saying it never got easier. I will try. We are busy. People like to eat out on Christmas Eve. People are weird, she said. People pay the rent. She made a face, then brightened. Maybe Santa brings you a new nose. A super nose. Then you can taste stuff again. Eli let out a short breath that was almost a laugh. Big wish, kid. Not for Santa. He is loaded. She leaned closer to the camera. You will be careful, right? Always. Behind her, he could hear the apartment, the radiator clicking, a neighbor's television too loud. Lock the door after Mrs. Henderson goes home. No opening it for anyone but me. You remember. I remember, she said. I am 7. Right, my mistake. She grinned. Love you too. The call ended. The noise of the restaurant slipped back in. Eli put the phone away, lifted the tray, and let his shoulders rise and fall once. You ready? Nina Brooks asked, appearing at his side with a stack of menus. Her dark hair was pulled into a bun, a pen stuck behind one ear. As I will ever be, he said. She nodded toward the corner table. Those people look like they complain for fun. They probably do. Good thing you have that quiet, unshakable thing. She nudged his arm with her elbow. Come on. I will bring the menus. You bring the tall. They crossed the room together. As they neared the Sterling table, the sound from that corner separated from the rest. Damian's laugh was loud, smooth, a little too sharp at the end. The others answered him with practiced amusement. Kate's voice slid under it lower, calmer. Volatility is not always bad, she was saying. Sometimes it means life. She turned slightly as Eli and Nina stopped beside the table. Up close, the red of her dress was darker, almost wine-colored. The light from the pendant above caught on the line of her collarbone and the edge of a thin gold necklace. Her gaze flicked to Eli's name tag, then to his face. It rested there for a second, cool and unreadable. "Good evening," he said. "Water for the table to start." Glasses lifted. He poured, working his way around, aware of Nina's easy chatter, as she introduced herself and offered to explain the specials. The water caught the light, a clear ribbon sliding into crystal. The red berries in the centerpiece glowed. Outside, the windows behind them, snow traced pale lines down the glass. When the last glass was full, Eli stepped back, the tray steady in his hand, Marco's warning in his ears. At the edge of his vision, he saw Damien push his chair back, already half standing, as he laughed at something one of the executives had said. Damien's chair scraped the floor as he half rose, still laughing. His elbow swung back. Eli shifted his weight to move around him. The tray tipped. Time seemed to slow. One stemmed glass slid, then another. A line of red lifted, caught in the light, a thin arc leaving the rim. Wine hung in the air for a heartbeat, then came down in a soft, terrible slap against red silk. Kate Sterling's dress darkened from collarbone to waist. Drops sprayed her hair, her arm the white linen at her place setting. One glass tumbled to the floor and burst, crystal shards skittering across the dark hardwood. The whole table went quiet. So did the tables nearest them. Only the piano kept playing a few low notes that sounded suddenly out of place. Eli froze, muscles locked around the tray. Cold rushed through his chest despite the heat of the room. He set the tray on the nearest empty table before his hands could betray him. "I am so sorry," he said. His voice came out rough. "I did not see him stand. This was my fault." Damien looked down at the stain, then at his own untouched shirt, then at Eli. His smile had a new edge. "Big night for you, huh?" he said. "First time carrying glasses." Damien, one of the executives, muttered. Kate had not moved. Her hands still rested on the table, fingers gently curled near her napkin. Red spread over the fabric of her dress like ink in water. Eli pulled a clean napkin from the side station and held it out. "Let me get your coat, or we can take care of that in the restroom. I am very sorry." Her eyes lifted to his. Up close, they were a pale clear blue, cool as the winter sky outside the windows. She studied his face as if she were cataloging each line. The room waited with her. Marco appeared at Eli's shoulder breadth, a little fast. "Ms. Sterling, I am so sorry. We will of course comp your meal. I will have your dress cleaned, replaced, whatever is needed. This was entirely our mistake." Kate did not look at Marco. She did not look at the spreading stain. She kept her gaze on Eli. He expected anger, a sharp tone, a demand that he be fired instantly, something hot enough to match the color blooming across the silk. Instead, she said very evenly, "What is your name?" "Eli," he said. "Eli Walker." "Eli?" She repeated it as though trying the shape of it in her mouth. "You work here how long?" "About a year," he said. "Does he usually do this?" Damien said a little too loudly. "Because if this is part of the experience, I am not sure I am a fan." A strained laugh bounced around the table. Kate lifted one hand. The sound died. "You ruined a very expensive dress," she told Eli, "and a night I did not want to be at in the first place." Something in her voice made Damien shift just slightly. Eli swallowed. "I know. I am sorry. I can pay it off. Over time, I will figure it out." She considered him. The candles reflected in her eyes. "No," she said quietly. "You will pay me back with a date." For a moment, no one seemed to understand the words. Then the table reacted at once. Someone choked on laughter. Someone else said, "What?" The executive at the far end clapped a hand over his mouth, eyes huge. Damien's jaw tensed. "A date?" Marco repeated, stunned. Kate leaned back in her chair, as if settling into a position she had already decided on before she spoke. "Tomorrow night. You will have him meet me. Somewhere appropriate. 8 o'clock. Marco opened and closed his mouth once. "Of course. If that is what you wish, Ms. Sterling." She picked up the napkin and dabbed at a stray droplet on her wrist. "It is." Damien's smile did not reach his eyes. "Katie, you do not have to entertain yourself like this. We can leave, get you something else to wear." "We will stay," she said. "I am hungry." Her decision landed like a gavel. Conversations in the room slowly resumed. The piano player shifted into a softer tune. Eli stood rooted until Marco's fingers closed firm around his elbow. "Kitchen," Marco murmured. "Now." He guided Eli away from the table. Eli could feel the eyes on his back as he slipped behind the bar and back through the swinging door. The kitchen roared at him. Pans hissed. Tickets printed. The contrast with the frozen moment in the dining room made his head spin. Marco pushed him into the narrow office near the walk-in cooler and shut the door. The office was barely bigger than a closet lined with shelves of wine lists and old menus. A single computer screen glowed on the desk. Marco dragged a hand down his face. "Do you have any idea who that is?" "Yes," Eli said. "You told me. That is not a person. That is an economy. That is rent for the next 3 years." Marco's voice cracked. "And you just baptized her in House Merlot." "I can pay for the dress," Eli said. "Not all at once, over time." Marco let out a sound that was almost a laugh. "That dress probably cost more than your car." Eli shut his mouth. Marco leaned on the edge of the desk, breathing hard for a few seconds. Then he looked up, the panic in his eyes shifting to something more calculating. "Her assistant called," he said. "While you were still out there, she was very clear." Eli waited. "She wants a dinner," Marco said. "Tomorrow night, 8, Le Ciel. You know it. I have heard of it." "You are not paying," Marco said. "She is. She has made the reservation herself. All you have to do is show up, sit there, be polite, and survive 2 hours with the most intimidating woman in the city." "That is not a great sales pitch," Eli said. "It is the only one I have." Marco rubbed a thumb over a nick in the desk. "You say no, she walks out of here and never comes back. She calls her friends. They never come back. This place is done." Eli thought of Maddie on the screen, holding up popsicle stick ornaments. Thought of the rent statement on the kitchen counter, due dates circled in red pen. Thought of the stack of bills he kept in the drawer beside his bed. His pride lifted its head. He pushed it down gently. "Do I clock in for this?" he asked. Marco stared and then huffed out a short, helpless laugh. "If I could put you on overtime for going on a date, I would." He sobered. "I would not ask you if it were not serious, Eli. I owe you for the nights you bailed us out. This is me asking for one back." "One date," Eli said. "That is it." "That is what she said," Marco answered. "One date. Then I guess she decides whether you paid the debt." The office grew quiet. Through the thin wall they could hear the dining room again. Glasses clinking, voices rising and falling. "I do not have anything to wear, too, Le Ciel," Eli said. "Not that place." Marco pushed off the desk and crossed to the coat rack. He pulled down a garment bag that had been hanging there so long the plastic had gone cloudy. "I used to fit in this," he said, "before the desserts took revenge. You and I are close enough, I think." He handed Eli the bag. Eli took it carefully, fingers resting on the zipper. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet," Marco said. "Go wash your hands and get back out there. We still have a restaurant to finish running." Eli left the office and returned to the kitchen sink. The water ran hot. He scrubbed his hands until the shaking eased. By the time he stepped back into the dining room, someone had replaced the broken glass, reset the linen, and topped off the wine at the Sterling table. Kate sat straight in her chair, Dane's still visible expression flawless. If she felt the eyes on her, she did not show it. She did not look his way again. Later, when the rush had thinned and the last desserts were on their way out, Eli finally checked his phone. A new message waited from a number he did not know. "Dear Mr. Walker, per Ms. Sterling's instruction, a reservation has been secured under her name at Le Ciel for tomorrow to December 25th at 8:00 p.m. Appropriate attire is requested. Transportation will not be provided. Your presence is expected. Sincerely, Rachel Ngo, Executive Assistant to Catherine Sterling." Eli read it twice, then let the screen go dark. By the time he finished closing sidework and counting his tips, the snow outside had thickened. Streetlights cast pale cones over piles of white gathering along the curbs. He caught the late train home, shoulders hunched against the wind as he walked from the station. The apartment building loomed brick stained by years of weather, one front window blinking with the uneven light Maddie had hung. Inside, the hallway smelled like boiled cabbage, an old carpet cleaner. He unlocked the door quietly. The living room was lit only by the tree and the glow of a cartoon on the muted television. Maddie sat cross-legged on the floor in pajamas, patterned with reindeer coloring, and a book. Mrs. Henderson snored gently on the couch, a blanket over her knees. Maddie looked up when she heard the latch. Her eyes went straight to his face, reading the lines there. "Hey," he said softly, "you still up?" "I was waiting." She scrambled to her feet and hurried over. "Did rich people tip good?" "Enough," he said. She tipped her head. "You have that look. The one where you are thinking too loud." He smiled, the muscles tired. "Mrs. Henderson, I am home." The older woman, startled awake, blinked and pushed herself upright. "Oh, honey, I'm sorry. My show went on, and I went off." "You boys all right?" "We are fine," Eli said. "Thank you for staying." She waved a hand and reached for her coat. "Merry Christmas, sweethearts." When the door shut behind her, the apartment seemed smaller and quieter. Maddie followed him into the bedroom as he dropped his keys on the dresser. He hung his apron on the chair, then unzipped the garment bag and peeled back the plastic. Inside, a dark suit lay folded over the hanger. It was a little shiny at the elbows, but the cut was clean. "Whoa," Maddie breathed. "Fancy? Are we going somewhere?" He hesitated. There was no good way to make it sound normal. "I have to go to dinner tomorrow," he said, "with a guest from the restaurant. Like a date." Her eyes widened. He thought of the email. "The words 'your presence is expected.' Something like that," he said. She reached up and pinched the fabric between two fingers. "Can I help pick your tie?" "Sure," he said. She bounced on her toes, already halfway to the closet where he kept the few ties he owned. He watched her rummage small shoulders intent. The tiredness in his chest shifted. Not lighter, not heavier, just different. Maddie turned, holding up a narrow red tie with a pattern of tiny dots. "This one," she said. "It matches Christmas." He took it from her and looped it loosely around his neck, looking at their reflection in the bedroom mirror. His face lined by late nights, her face bright and certain. "You have good taste," he said. "I am your kid," she answered, as if that explained everything. He reached over and smoothed her curls back from her forehead. "Bed," he said. "Santa has a lot of work to do." She scurried off toward her room, humming something that might have been a carol. Eli set the suit carefully over the chair, the red tie coiled on top, like a strip of color waiting for its place. Christmas morning arrived pale and quiet, a thin light leaking through the blinds of Eli's bedroom. He woke to the rasp of the radiator and the soft creak of pipes in the walls. For a moment he lay still and forgot about the email and the suit hanging from the chair. Then the image of Kate Sterling's dress drenched in red slid back into his mind. In the living room, Maddie had already been up. The tree lights blinked. A plate on the coffee table held a few crumbs and one half-eaten cookie. She had written a note in her careful 7-year-old scrawl and left it under the empty glass of milk. "Thank you, Santa. Please help my dad be happy." Eli picked up the note and read it twice, thumb smoothing the edge of the paper. He put it back exactly where he had found it. Maddie stuck her head out of her bedroom, hair standing up on one side. "He came," she whispered, as if Santa might still be sleeping in the building somewhere. "I can see that," Eli said. "Looks like he liked the cookies." She patted out in fuzzy socks, yawning. "Are you going tonight?" Eli knew what she meant. The suit, the red tie, the email signed by an assistant who probably had a degree in handling people like him without ever seeing them. "Yes," he said. "Are you nervous?" "A little." "Do you want me to do your hair?" she asked. He snorted. "Pretty sure I am past help in that department." She shrugged and went to investigate the stocking at the base of the tree. He watched her for a few seconds, then went to start coffee. The day moved in small pieces. He cooked breakfast. They opened a few presents, simple things he had managed to put on layaway weeks before. A sketchbook for Maddie, colored pencils, a second-hand book of recipes she had picked out for him, the pages already soft from another home. In the afternoon, Mrs. Henderson came by with a pie and a hug that smelled faintly of talcum and peppermint. She promised to keep Maddie company again, no extra pay, because she liked having someone to watch the holiday specials with. "You got that dinner thing," she said, waving a hand at the suit. "Go be charming." Eli was not sure he remembered how to be that, but he nodded and went to get ready. He showered and shaved, then stood in front of the mirror and put on Marco's suit. The pants fit almost perfectly. The jacket pulled a little at the shoulders when he lifted his arms, but once he settled, it smoothed into place. He worked the red tie around his neck, fingers slow but steady, remembering his father showing him the knot years ago. Maddie watched from the bedchin on her hands. "You look like the guys on TV," she said. "The good ones, not the bad guys with the sunglasses." "High praise," he said. She hopped down and disappeared into her room. When she came back, she was holding the small scarf she had knit. The red yarn was a little uneven loops, jumping in and out of place, but it was soft. "In case you get cold," she said. "Le ciel is in the sky, right? It sounds like it is cold." He crouched to her height. "You sure you do not want to keep this?" "I will knit another one," she said. "This one is for courage." He folded it and slipped it into his coat pocket. "Then I will take it." When he stepped out into the hallway, the suit felt almost like armor. The December air bit at his cheeks as he walked back to the train. The city was softer than usual, snow filling in the cracks, muffling the traffic sounds. At the intersection near the river, someone had built a lopsided snowman and balanced a beer can where the nose should have been. Le Ciel sat near the top of a glass tower, its entrance tucked inside a bright marble lobby. The elevator ride carried him up in silence, his reflection floating over the city lights and the mirrored doors. His ears popped once. The numbers blinked higher. On the restaurant floor, a hostess in a sleek black dress greeted him with a professional smile. "Good evening," she said. "Name?" "Walker," he said. "Eli Walker. I am meeting someone." Her eyes flicked to the screen by her podium. "Yes, Ms. Sterling is already here. Right this way. He followed her, through a dining room of white linen and polished silver. The walls were mostly glass. The city spread out in every direction, halos of orange and white, where the streetlights met the snow. Conversations hummed around him low, and even the sound of people who could afford to be here without doing the math. Kate sat at a small table near one of the windows. She wore black this time, a dress that left her shoulders bare. Her hair fell loose over one side. Her hands rested on the table fingers laced as if she had been waiting in that exact pose. When she saw him, she did not stand, but her gaze swept over him briefly, taking in the suit, the tie, his posture. Neither approval nor disappointment registered on her face. "Mr. Walker," she said, "you found it." "Yes," he said. The elevator helped. A corner of her mouth shifted, then settled. She nodded at the chair opposite her. "Sit," she said. He did. His napkin waited folded into a simple rectangle. A candle flickered between them, its flame mirrored in the glass behind her. A waiter appeared almost immediately, setting down a wine list and 2 slim menus. He greeted Kate by name. She ordered in French without looking, the words smooth, crisp, familiar. The waiter nodded and moved away. "You speak French," Eli said. "I speak whatever I need to," she replied. "It saves time." Silence settled for a moment. Silverware clinked at nearby tables, breaking it into small pieces. "We have 2 hours," Kate said. "During that time, you will eat, I will eat, and we will have enough conversation to be seen as fulfilling this arrangement. After that, we will leave separately and not pretend this means anything more. Your debt will be considered paid." He studied her. The candle drew light along the line of her jaw. Outside, snow slid down the glass in slow tracks. "Is that how you do all your deals?" he asked. "Timed, itemized, terms and conditions." "It avoids confusion," she said. "What if I am already confused? That is your problem, not mine." He could have let it lie there. Could have nodded, played the part of the grateful employee, said yes ma'am and no ma'am, and kept his real questions to himself. "Why did you really ask me here?" he said. Her expression did not change, but he saw the tiniest pause before she answered. "I told you," she said. "You ruined my dress." "You could have sent the bill to the restaurant," he said. "You know that. Marco would have paid. You could have had him fire me in less time than it takes to say my name. You did not. You sat there in a ruined dress and invited yourself into my life. Why?" Her fingers slipped apart. She reached for her water, took a small sip, and set the glass back down exactly where it had been. "There was someone at that table I needed to avoid," she said. "You walking in with that tray gave me an excuse." "Damien," he said. Her eyes flicked up briefly. "You remember his name?" "He was the loud one." "He is persistent," she said. "And my board prefers him when he thinks he has leverage. A photograph of their CEO with a server is leverage." There was no pride in the way she said CEO, only fact. "So I am a shield," Eli said. "You are temporary," she said. The first course arrived, a small arrangement of fish and citrus laid out like a painting. Eli picked up his fork. The smell was faint, sharp at the edge of his perception, but he focused on texture instead. He tasted. The flavors were blurred like a song playing through a wall. "Is it bad?" Kate asked. He swallowed. "It is good. I just do not get the full picture." "You used to," she said. He looked up surprised. "Marco tell you that?" "He said you were in a kitchen once," she replied. "He did not say why you are not now." "Chemical spill," Eli said. "Wrong place, wrong time. One minute I am tasting sauces, the next I am on the floor and everything smells like nothing. Doctor said it might come back. It did not." Her gaze stayed on his face. "You stayed in restaurants." "They are what I know," he said. "Besides, someone has to carry the wine." For a second, something like sympathy passed over her features, then vanished. The second course arrived. They ate in small pockets of quiet. When the food gave them nothing left to discuss, he did what he always did when the silence at home felt heavy. He talked about Maddie. He kept it simple at first. Her age, her love of glitter, the way she insisted on checking every gift under the tree and guessing what was inside. He mentioned the leaning fake pine, the patchy lights, the hand-cut snowflakes taped to the wall. Kate did not encourage him, but she did not stop him either. Her expression stayed contained, yet her eyes followed the movement of his hands when he described Maddie's wild curls, the way she scrunched her nose when concentrating. "She wants me to be happy," he said almost to himself. "She puts it in her notes to Santa." She wrote that Kate asked. He nodded. "Spells it out just fine. Better than some adults I know." The ghost of a smile touched her mouth. It faded quickly, but he had seen it. Dessert came delicate and glossy. Eli took a bite and set his spoon down. "Do you always work on Christmas?" she asked. "If I can," he said. "Holiday pay extra tips. Parenting is expensive." "You could have chosen something else," she said. After the accident. So, could you, he said quietly, after your mother. The air between them shifted. Her fingers tightened around her spoon. Is that in my file too? No, he said. I read newspapers when I am bored. Your name shows up. Then you know enough, she said. He watched her, but he did not press. The windows reflected them now, two shapes at a small table surrounded by light and glass, and a city that did not care. When the plates had been cleared and the check had been dealt with, Kate gathered her clutch and stood. Eli rose as well, chair scraping softly. They rode the elevator down in silence, the floors ticking by in red digits above the doors. In the lobby, the air felt cooler, touched by the outside every time the glass doors opened. A small artificial tree stood near the entrance, wrapped in white lights. A woman in a silver dress took a selfie with it, laughing as her partner leaned in. Kate walked toward the doors. Eli fell into step beside her. Outside, the cold reached up in an instant, snapping at his exposed neck. Snow spiraled down finer now, like dust. You have a car coming, he asked. My driver is around the corner, she said. He does not like blocking hotel traffic. Eli nodded. He could feel the scarf in his pocket light against the lining of his coat. He pulled it out. Here, he said, for the 30 seconds until you get to the car. She stared at the scarf. The red yarn looked almost bright against the black of her dress and coat. You do not have to play whatever part you think this is, she said. It is not a part, he said. My kid made it. She said it is for courage. I think you have less of that than people assume. A breath left her, not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. She took the scarf and looped it loosely around her throat. It looked wrong and right, at the same time handmade and slightly crooked, against all the smooth lines and expensive fabric. From the corner of his eye, Eli noticed the couple from the lobby step outside. The woman lifted her phone again, angling it to catch the lights and the snow. For a moment, the lens pointed straight at him and Kate. She turned her head, eyes on his face. You are different than I expected, she said. Headlights swept over them as a dark sedan pulled up to the curb. The phone in the woman's hand glowed, capturing whatever fit inside its small frame, while the city swirled around them. The photo went up before most of the city had finished its first cup of coffee. A lifestyle blogger posted it first, a quick snap between notes on Christmas brunch spots and last-minute gift ideas. Two figures on the sidewalk outside a tower of glass. Snow falling, a woman in a black dress, a flash of red scarf at her throat. A man in a dark suit, shoulders slightly hunched against the cold. They were close enough that their bodies tilted toward each other. The caption read, Ice Queen of Tech softens up Kate Sterling seen cozy on Christmas night with a mystery man. By noon, half a dozen other accounts had stolen the image and added their own commentary. The scarf looked brighter after filters. The snow looked more romantic. The comment sections filled up with jokes, guesses, and the usual noise. At Sterling Dynamics, the building hummed under the gray sky. The offices were half empty, many staff still on holiday, but the upper floors were lit. People with key cards had never been good at staying home. On the 32nd floor, a cluster of junior analysts huddled at the end of a row of desks, a phone held between them. That is her, one whispered. Look at the jawline. And that is definitely not Damien, another said. Who is he then? Check the tags. Someone had already dug up Kate's attendance at the Copper Finch in Le Ciel the night before. There were guesses that the man was a consultant, a bodyguard out of uniform, a secret fiancé. The story changed every few minutes. On the top floor in a corner office with glass on two sides, Damien Cole sat on a white leather couch, his ankle resting on his knee. He scrolled, lips curving. He tapped the forward icon and sent the link to a private thread labeled Board Core. He added only 3 words. Optics are concerning. Across town, Richard Sterling's tablet chimed. He sat at a long dining table in a house that was too large for one-person fork, poised over an untouched omelet. The morning news rolled on a muted screen, graphics looping through market predictions. He opened the thread, saw the photo, saw the caption, saw Damien's note. Fine lines tightened around his eyes. He did not eat the omelet. He called his driver. Kate arrived at her office just after 1, her step, even her coat buttoned high against the wind. She had been in meetings all morning, reviewing numbers, preparing for the full board session scheduled after the holidays. Her assistant had texted about a few calls, nothing urgent. She could tell from the way the receptionist's smile flickered that something had shifted. There were printouts waiting on her desk. Rachel had laid them out neatly. Headlines, screen captures, the same image over and over. Rachel stood near the window, legal pad in hand. It started small, she said. Now it is on 2 business blogs, and one of the networks picked it up for their gossip segment. Kate set her bag down. She picked up the nearest page and studied her own profile in grainy phone resolution. The angle made it look as if she were stepping closer to Eli, not away. Her mouth was parted as if she had been mid-word. "This is nothing," she said. "It will pass." Damien sent it to several board members, Rachel said carefully, with comments about perception. "And your father is here." Kate's fingers tightened on the paper. "Here, in the conference room. He did not ask if you were available." Of course he did not. Richard Sterling had never asked permission to enter a room that had his name on it. Kate smoothed the printout, placed it on the desk, and straightened her shoulders. In the boardroom, the lights were a little too bright. Richard stood at the head of the long table, hands resting lightly on the back of a chair. A tablet lay in front of him, the screen dark for the moment. He looked up as she entered. "Close the door," he said. She did. The click sounded loud in the space. He picked up the tablet and woke it with a tap. The photo expanded to fill the screen. Without a word, he set it on the polished wood between them. "Explain," he said. "There was a spill," Kate answered. "A mistake. The server dropped wine on me during a dinner. I chose to handle it my way. By scheduling a date," his voice was very smooth, "with staff. It diffused the situation," she said, briefly. "Nothing about this looks brief," he said. He lifted the tablet, rotating it. The overhead lights bounced off the glass. "You understand how this reads. You, the woman running a multi-billion-dollar company on the sidewalk, with a man who carries drinks for a living. He is a person," she said. "He made a mistake. I dealt with it. By inviting the world to believe he is in your bed," Richard said. "No one will care about the nuance. They will see a headline that says, 'You are distracted, emotional, attached.'" "I am not attached," she snapped. His brows rose just slightly. "That is not the defense you think it is." She forced her shoulders to relax. "This was a single dinner. It has no bearing on the company, on our performance, on our product. The market does not trade on reality," he said. "It trades on perception. You taught me that when you were 17 and refused to cry at your mother's funeral." The room went very still. She met his gaze. "This is not that." "It is exactly that," he said quietly. "You are sending a message. You are telling everyone who matters that your time, your attention, your body are available to a man who has nothing to offer this company. He has his life," she said. "He works 2 jobs to support a child. That is something." "That is sentiment," Richard said. "Sentiment is weakness. You know this." She felt something cold coil in her chest. "What is it you want exactly?" "You will put out a statement," he said. "You will say this was a misunderstanding. You will say he was overfamiliar and you are taking appropriate disciplinary action. You will reaffirm your commitment to your role. Then you will accept Damien's invitation to the New Year's gala and make sure anyone with a camera sees you on his arm." The air tasted metallic. "No," she said. His jaw tightened. "No, I will not punish someone for a story other people wrote around us," she said. "And I will not hang off Damien to soothe his ego in public." "You will do as I say," Richard replied. His voice did not rise. That made it worse. "Because your name is still tied to mine. Because this board still listens to me. Because I can make your life very difficult very quickly." Kate stepped closer to the table. The tablet screen still flickered, capturing the moment outside Le Ciel, as if it had never ended. "Get out of my conference room," she said. For a second she thought he might actually raise his voice. Instead he straightened his cuffs, then his tie. "You are my daughter," he said. "That will always be true." "Unfortunately," she said. His eyes cooled. "You have until the end of the week to remind people why they believed in you in the first place. Or they will start believing other stories." He walked past her. His cologne lingered long after the door shut. Kate stood alone for a full minute. Her heart thudded once, twice, then found its rhythm. When she finally moved, it was to gather the scattered printouts and drop them into the small shredder by the credenza. The machine whirred softly, chewing the paper into thin strips. At the Copperfinch, the dining room looked different, even though nothing had changed. Eli carried a tray of coffee cups through the morning light and felt the weight of glances he had not felt before. 2 women at a corner table nudged each other and looked up at him, then at a phone on the table between them. One tried to be subtle as she angled the screen away when he approached. He set their plates down with steady hands. "Eggs Benedict and the avocado toast." "Thank you," one said. "You have a very good restaurant here." Her tone hovered between genuine and curious. He nodded and stepped back. At the server station, Nina waited. Her expression was tight, mouth pressed flat. "Have you seen it?" she asked. He poured more coffee into a carafe. "Seen what?" She pulled her phone from her apron and tapped the screen. The image glowed there, small and sharp. Him and Kate in the snow, the scarf bright at her throat, her face turned toward his. The headline above it read, "Kate Sterling's Holiday Romance with Mystery's Waiter, Power Imbalance or Real Deal." He stared at it. The words blurred for a second, then came into focus. The comments below scrolled as Nina flicked past them. Gold digger, social climber, lucky bastard. A few called Kate reckless. A few called him worse. Nina locked the phone. Her thumb shook just a little. You did not do anything wrong, she said. It was dinner. Anyone acting like this is, I do not know, bored, cruel. It does not matter what it was, he said. They already decided what they want it to be. She watched him. You could talk to someone, set the record straight. There is no record, he said. There is just a picture. He set the carafe down and checked the ticket rail. More orders were up. People still wanted coffee, pancakes, bacon. There is, Maddie, Nina said quietly. He paused. Kids hear things, she said. Other kids talk. Parents talk. You know that. I know, he said. What are you going to do? He picked up the carafe again. Same thing as usual. Which is what? Show up, he said. Do the work. Hope it blows over before I have to pull her out of school and move. He walked back into the dining room, shoulders level, face neutral. The murmurs rose and fell as he passed like waves against a breakwater. Through the front windows, snow drifted down, soft and indifferent to the names people called strangers on screens. The calls piled up faster than the emails. By late afternoon, Rachel's inbox was a grid of subject lines that all sounded the same. Concern about recent coverage, requesting clarification, questioning leadership focus. Some were polite, some were not. Kate read the first few, then stopped. It was like standing in front of a fire hydrant someone had cracked open. The words spilled out with the same force. Optics, judgment, distraction. She sat at her desk. The city spread beyond the glass like a winter diagram. Snow traced thin lines down the windows. On one of the muted news channels mounted in the corner, her own picture flashed again. That same photo from outside Le Ciel, squeezed between a shopping segment and a story about airline delays. Rachel stood in the doorway, tablet hugged against her chest. We can get ahead of it, she said. Issue a statement. Something neutral but firm. Clarify that it was a one-time dinner, nothing personal, no ongoing relationship. Kate kept her eyes on the window. You think that will stop them? It will give the board something to point to, Rachel said. And investors. They do not need the truth. They need a line they can repeat. My father wants me to throw him under a bus, Kate said. Call it inappropriate behavior on his part. Say he overstepped. Rachel shifted her weight. Do you want to do that? Kate pictured Eli standing in Marco's cramped office, shoulders tense, accepting a dinner, like it was another shift he could not turn down. She pictured Maddie's scarf in her own hands, red yarn looped imperfectly and offered without an agenda. No, she said. Rachel nodded once, as if she had expected that answer, and had already filed it under things she respected, but could not control. At least speak to him, Rachel said. He deserves that much. Kate hesitated, then reached for her phone. The number in Marco's contact list had been forwarded by his manager that morning, a practical note attached. In case Ms. Sterling needs to follow up. She walked to the window while the call rang. The lights in the buildings across the river had begun to switch on one rectangle at a time. On the third ring, a male voice answered, cautious. Hello? Mr. Walker, she said. There was a brief pause. She could hear a faint noise in the background. A television turned low, the distant thump of pipes. Kate, he said. The single syllable landed with a weight she felt in her chest. I am calling to apologize, she said. The words were formal, but her voice was softer than in the boardroom. This has become larger than I anticipated. You did not ask for any of it. You did not either, he said. I did, she said. I made a choice at that table. I used you as an exit. That choice has consequences for you. That was not part of the calculation, and it should have been. Silence stretched for a heartbeat. If you want me to release a statement clearing your name, I will, she said. I can say it was nothing personal, that you were simply doing your job, that any other implication is false. He let out a slow breath near the microphone. If you say my name again on television, it will get worse, not better. It will separate you from me in the story, she said. It will make them talk about it longer, he said, and louder. People like to pick at things. They do not let go because you tell them to. They just find new jokes. She looked down. Far below, a car eased through the slush, its headlights throwing weak cones of light against the gray. My father wants me to deny everything, she said quietly. Say you were nothing to me. A moment of poor judgment that I regret. He did not answer right away. When he did, his voice had an edge she had not heard before. Maybe you should, he said. Maybe that is easier for both of us. The words caught her somewhere she did not have a name for. For a second she had to work to swallow. I do not know how to do easy, she said. I only know how to do necessary. What counts as necessary, he asked. Whatever keeps the company from bleeding out, she said. Whatever keeps the board in line long enough to finish what we started. He was quiet again. In the background, she heard a child's voice muffled, as if through a wall. Maddie probably asking for water or for one more story. Then take care of your company, he said. I will take care of my kid. I am sorry, she said. This time he did not tell her not to be. She heard a breath, then the small click of the line disconnecting. The office felt colder when she set the phone down. On the television in the corner, a weather map had replaced her photo. A blue swath swept across the Midwest numbers along its edge. The caption at the bottom read, "Major winter storm expected to hit Chicago within 48 hours." By the next evening, the warnings were everywhere. The office screens cycled between market updates and storm projections. Staff who could left early to beat the first wave of ice. Those who stayed moved with the restless energy of people watching the sky out of the corners of their eyes. Kate stayed. She sat through a call with the head of legal, then a call with the head of communications. She reviewed slide decks for the upcoming board meeting, adjusting numbers, rewriting lines, stripping anything that sounded the slightest bit defensive. Rachel hovered in the doorway, once coat over her arm. "You should go home," she said. "They are saying roads could get bad fast." "I have a driver," Kate said without looking up. "I will be fine." Rachel hesitated. "The board packet is as strong as it can be. You do not have to keep poking it." "I am not poking it," Kate said. "I am making sure no one can pretend they did not understand." At 8, Rachel left. At 9, the hallways outside grew quiet, the overhead lights dimmer. Only the hum of the server room and the occasional whine of a heating unit sounded through the floor. At 10, Kate finally closed her laptop. She stepped into the hallway and felt the building differently. Without the staff, without the usual movement, it echoed. The elevator ride down took longer than usual, each floor ticking past with a soft chime. In the lobby, the security guard glanced up from his desk. "Evening, Ms. Sterling," he said. "Careful out there. It is nasty." She stepped outside. The air hit her like a wet cloth. Snow came at an angle driven sideways by wind that cut through her coat. The street was a mess of tire tracks and slush. A plow crawled past its blade, pushing dirty snow into the gutter. Her sedan sat a half block down, parked near a lamp. She lowered her head and walked toward it, heels punching small holes in the soft ground. By the time she reached the car, snow had piled along the wipers and gathered in a ridge along the hood. She unlocked it and slid inside. The cold had seeped through the doors. Her breath puffed in front of her. She started the engine. It turned over, caught, and idled rough. The heater coughed lukewarm air. She waited for a minute, watching the flakes streak across the windshield. On the third block, the dashboard lights flickered. The engine gave a stuttering cough and died. The car coasted to a stop. The headlights dimmed. The silence inside felt thick. She turned the key again. Nothing. The starter clicked once, then went still. For a moment, Kate just sat. The wind pushed against the car, making it rock slightly. Snow stuck to the glass faster, the thin streaks from the wipers no longer clearing it away. She checked her phone. 12% battery. No signal bars showed. Then one blinked into existence, then vanished. The storm had blurred even that. She could wait. The thought came as a reflex. Stay in the car. Someone would notice. A plow driver. A patrol. The idea of sitting here for hours while the temperature dropped sent a tight ripple through her chest. Outside, a yard down the street, someone's front porch was still lit up. White lights looped around the railing. A plastic reindeer tilted sideways in the drift. For a second, the sight doubled. The railing became the railing of her childhood home, the hill, the long front walk where her mother had fallen. She could smell the cold from that night, hear the sound of someone's shout, see the way the snow had gathered on her mother's hair. Her lungs refused to fill all the way. Her hands began to shake. She fumbled with the door handle and pushed it open. The wind clawed inside immediately, grabbing at her coat, scraping icy air across her throat. She stepped out and nearly slipped before finding her footing. The street was emptier than it should have been. Most people had had the sense to stay home. Her phone felt small and slick in her hand. She ducked her head, trying to block the sleet, and scrolled through her contacts. Richard's name sat near the top. She stared at it, the tightness in her chest growing. She could already hear his voice. Questions before concern. Calculations before comfort. Damien's line blinked underneath saved, because it had to be, not because she wanted it there. Her thumb moved on its own, sliding past both. She scrolled down to the W section. Eli Walker. She hesitated only a second, then tapped. The ring sounded weak, like it had to fight through the storm to reach its mark. On the third ring, he answered, voice thick with sleep and something else. "Hello?" "Eli," she said. Her teeth were starting to chatter. "It is Kate." The background on his end was quiet. She pictured the small living room, the blinking lights, the worn couch. Kate, he said, alert now. What is wrong? My car died, she said. I am on Wabash near 7th. I cannot get it started. My phone it is not holding a charge. I did not know who else to call. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the wind and the rush of her own breathing in her ears. Stay where you are, he said. His voice was calm in a way she felt in her bones. Get back in the car. Lock the doors. Turn on whatever light still works. I am coming. The line crackled once. Then the call ended as her phone flashed a low battery warning. Eli was already moving before the line went dead. He grabbed his coat from the back of the chair, shoving his arms through the sleeves as he crossed the living room. The apartment was dim lit by the tree and the blue wash of a cartoon on the muted television. Maddie sat curled on the couch blanket around her legs, a bowl of popcorn in her lap. She looked up when she heard his keys. Where are you going? She asked. Work thing, he said. Breath short. Emergency. I need you to stay here. Mrs. Henderson is already in bed, but she is next door if you really need her. Her brow wrinkled. It is storming. I know. He knelt in front of her and put his hands on her shoulders. Door stays locked. You do not open it for anyone but me. You remember what we practiced. She nodded slowly. Not code. Right. He tapped it out on the coffee table. 3 quick, 2 slow. Nobody else knows that. If you do not hear that, you do not open. Is it the rich people? She asked. From the picture. He hesitated. Sort of. She studied his face, then reached behind her to the couch cushion. When her hand came back, she held the red scarf. You forgot this, she said. He stared at it for half a second. I thought you wanted me to keep it for special. This seems pretty special, she said. Bring it back. I will, he said. He tucked the scarf inside his coat and kissed her hair. Then he was out the door, down the stairs, into the hallway that smelled like old paint and damp wool. The cold hit him at the front entrance. Wind shoved at the glass. When he pushed outside, it felt like stepping into another substance. Snow came at him in sheets, fat flakes driven sideways, stinging any skin that was not covered. He hunched into his coat and ran. His car sat half buried at the curb. He brushed snow from the windshield with his sleeve and fumbled the key into the lock. The engine protested, then finally caught a rough cough that steadied. Wipers dragged heavy arcs across the glass, barely keeping up. He pulled away from the curb, slow tires spinning before finding grip. The streets were nearly empty. A bus chugged past lights smeared by the storm. The usual city noise had been muted by the weather. He drove with both hands on the wheel, leaning forward, squinting through the blur. Every block felt longer than it should. He turned onto Wabash, following the dark ribbon of plowed pavement where he could. He saw her before he saw the car. A small figure hunched beside the dead sedan coat, pulled tight hair whipped across her face by the wind. The hazard lights blinked an anemic orange half buried in snow. He eased in behind her and put his own hazards on. When he opened his door, the wind tried to slam it back into him. Kate, he called. She turned eyes wide in a face gone pale. For a second she looked younger. Not the woman who negotiated with billionaires, but a girl pulled out into a storm she had not chosen. Get in, he shouted. She moved stiffly. Her hands shook as she grabbed her bag and yanked open the passenger door of his car. Snow tumbled inside along with her. He climbed in after her and slammed his door. The heater wheezed, working as hard as it could. He cranked it higher. Her teeth were chattering. Wet had soaked through the bottom of her coat to the dress underneath. Her legs were bare from mid-thigh to knee, the sensible heels no match for the ice. You pick a great night to go for a drive, he said, trying for light. I had a meeting, she said. I was going home. Her voice trembled at the edges. He could hear the strain there, the way she was holding something tight and refusing to let it rise. You are not staying out here to freeze to prove a point, he said. You are coming with me. Her fingers flexed against the leather seat. Your daughter. Is at home, he said, behind a locked door, with cartoons and popcorn. She is better off than you are right now. He checked his mirrors, then eased away from the curb. The car slid once on the slick street before the tires caught. The drive back took twice as long as it had on the way out. He took side streets, avoiding hills, creeping through intersections even when the lights said go. The world outside the windows was a smeared watercolor of white and gray buildings, softened edges erased. Kate held her bag in her lap like a shield. She watched the snow hit the glass and stick. Her knuckles were still pale. You should have called your driver, he said, or a tow, or literally anyone besides me. She gave a faint huff. My driver took the night off. I thought I could manage 10 blocks. And then your car disagreed. And then my car disagreed, she said. The next corner was worse. A sheet of ice had formed under the snow. The car skidded, sliding toward the curb. Eli turned the wheel gently hard in his throat until they straightened. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, but her hand had braced against the dash. He pulled up outside his building at last. The familiar brick rose out of the white. The front stoop was a shallow mound. "This is not exactly a five-star option," he said, "but it is warm." He parked, killed the engine, and turned to her. "You can stay in the car if you want," he added, "but the heat is going to drop as fast as the battery." She opened her door. They slipped their way up the steps, boots and heels scraping for purchase. Inside, the hallway felt almost tropical after the street. The old radiator hissed and clicked like a living thing. Kate's eyes flicked over the peeling paint, the scuffed baseboards, the faint scent of someone's cooking at the far end. It was a world away from the marble lobbies she knew. Eli unlocked his apartment. Warmth and color pushed out into the hall. The tree lights blinked, reflecting off the window. The television still glowed blue, casting cartoon shapes over the floor. Maddie sat exactly where he had left her blanket, now up to her chin, eyes big. She saw Kate and sat up straighter. "You brought her," Maddie said. Kate paused on the threshold. Snow clung to her hair in tiny crystals. The red scarf peeked from under the edge of her coat, damp now darker. "I did," Eli said. "Her car broke. She needs a place to thaw." Maddie slid off the couch. Her socks made no sound on the floor. "Are you okay?" she asked, looking up at Kate with a seriousness that did not match the reindeer on her pajamas. Kate opened her mouth, then closed it. The right words for boardrooms, interviews, and quarterly calls lined up in her mind. None of them fit here. "I was very cold," she said finally. Maddie nodded, as if that answer passed some kind of test. She turned and trotted to her room. When she came back, she held something in both hands. "They are clean," she said. "My grandma taught me. You can borrow them until your feet stop hurting." She held out a pair of socks, red and white, and a little lumpy snowflake patterns wandering across the knit. Kate stared at them. The last time she had borrowed anything, it had been power or money or time, never wool from a child's drawer. "Thank you," she said. Her voice came out softer than she meant it to. She took the socks. Her fingers brushed Maddie's for an instant. The girl's hand was small and warm. Eli shrugged off his coat and hung it on the hook by the door. Melted snow darkened the mat. "Bathroom is down the hall," he said to Kate. "You can dry off a little. I do not have much in the way of spa amenities, but there are towels. Clean, I promise." She nodded and walked toward the narrow hallway. The bathroom was crowded shelf, stacked with drugstore bottles, a cup of Maddie's toothbrushes, shaped like animals. Kate closed the door and leaned back against it for a second, breathing. Her reflection in the mirror looked strange. Hair-damp lashes, clumped cheeks reddened by wind. The Kate Sterling she knew had sharp lines and smooth surfaces. This version looked like a sketch someone had smudged with their thumb. She set her bag on the counter and took off her heels. Her toes were mottled, the skin pale then pink as the warmth reached them. She pulled the socks on. The yarn was thick and slightly scratchy, but heat bloomed almost immediately in her feet. She stared down at the red and white pattern, while the uneven snowflakes, the loops where the tension had slipped. Her throat tightened, without warning. She pressed her palm against the cool porcelain of the sink until the feeling subsided. When she came back out, Eli had swapped his coat for a worn sweatshirt. A pot sat on the stove, steam curling from the spout of a battered kettle. Maddie had reclaimed her spot on the couch, but now she watched Kate openly chin on her knees. "You like hot chocolate?" Eli asked. "I have the cheap kind, the kind with marshmallows that never quite melt." "That is a strong sell," Kate said. He poured the hot water into 2 mugs anyway. The powder dissolved with a few swirls of a spoon, leaving a thin layer of foam. She sat on the far end of the couch, careful at first not to disturb anything. Another throw pillow had already made a dent where Maddie usually curled up. The apartment smelled faintly of cinnamon and old popcorn and something clean underneath. Maddie inched closer. "Do you hate Christmas?" she asked. Maddie, Eli said. What she said. She looks like she hates Christmas. Kate wrapped her hands around the mug. The heat bit into her palms in a way that felt almost good. "I do not hate it," she said. "I just have not known what to do with it for a long time." Maddie considered this. "We watch movies," she said. "And Dad burns the garlic bread sometimes. That is what we do." Kate glanced at Eli. He lifted one shoulder. "Traditions are works in progress," he said. Maddie yawned. It hit her all at once. Her head tipped to the side, eyes blinking slow. "You can fall asleep," Eli told her. "I got it from here." She shook her head, once stubborn, then lost the fight. Within a few minutes, she was on her side, feet tucked under her, breathing even. The blanket slid partway to the floor. Kate reached out and pulled it back up to her shoulders without thinking. Eli sank into the armchair across from the couch, elbows on his knees. The television played on mute, casting flickers of color over the room. "Tell me about your mother," he said quietly. Kate stared at the tree. She liked Christmas, she said. She liked everything about it. Lights, cookies, the way the house smelled for days. My father said the electric bill was obscene, but she did it anyway. She wanted the outside to look as bright as she felt on the inside. She paused. The words had to be coaxed out. "She died on Christmas Eve," she said. "Heart. They said it was sudden. She was outside on the front steps with a box of lights. One minute she was humming along with the radio. The next minute she was on the ground, and no one knew what to do." Her fingers tightened around the mug. "I was 12, she said. I watched from the window. I did not understand what I was looking at until someone screamed." Eli did not say he was sorry. The phrase felt thin in the air between them. "After that," she went on, "my father took everything down. Every light, every wreath. He told me we would not celebrate something that had taken her from us. He said feelings made you miss things, made you weak. People used weakness to hurt you." "He was hurt," Eli said. "Yes," she said, "and he needed a way to survive it. He built one and put me in it with him." The tree lights blinked green, red, yellow, repeating their simple pattern. "So, I learned," she said. "I learned to shut it down. The tears, the noise, the wanting. I learned how to walk into a room of men twice my age and make them listen. I learned how to keep everything in a box where no one else could reach it." Her voice thinned. "Now I do not know how to open it again." Eli sat back slightly. Maddie shifted in her sleep, mumbling, then settled. "You called me tonight," he said. "In a storm, when your car died. There were not many options," she said. "You still chose," he said. "You let my kid put socks on your feet. You are sitting on my couch drinking supermarket hot chocolate. That does not look like a box you cannot open." She looked at him, eyebrows drawn. "I am terrified," she said. The words came out before she could stop them. "If I let anyone close, they leave, or they die, or they use what I give them and walk away when they are finished. I do not know how to be anything but sharp. I am not sure there is anything underneath." "There is," he said. He leaned forward and reached across the space between them, slow enough that she could pull back. She did not. His hand closed gently around her free hand. "Right now you are a woman in my living room," he said, "wearing my daughter's socks, telling me things that scare you. That is as human as it gets." Her fingers curled around his without thinking. The room felt very small and very quiet, and very far from the offices with their glass walls and fluorescent light. For the first time in a long time, Kate did not feel like she was performing anything. Her eyes stung. She blinked hard. One tear got past anyway, tracking warm down the cold skin of her cheek. She did not wipe it away. They sat like that until the credits of the cartoon rolled, and the television timed itself out, the screen slipping to black. Eventually, Eli let go of her hand and stood. "You can take my bed," he said. "I will sleep out here. Couch is not as bad as it looks." She shook her head automatically. "I cannot take your room." "You can," he said. "You should. You are half frozen, and you are more likely to actually sleep in a room with a door." She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. "What about you?" she said. He glanced at the armchair. "I have had worse." He pulled a folded blanket from the closet and dropped it on the couch. "If you get cold," he added, "there is an extra quilt on the foot of the bed. Maddie will be in the other room. She sleeps hard. She will not mind." Kate looked down at the socks, at the red and white wrapped around her ankles, then at the bedroom door. The idea of lying in her own bed across town in that big silent house with its empty halls felt like thinking about another person's life. "Thank you," she said. She stepped into the bedroom. It smelled faintly of laundry and soap, and something that was just Eli, a note she could not quite name. She lay down on top of the blanket, not bothering to undress beyond taking off her jacket. Her body sank into the mattress. For a few seconds, every muscle stayed tense, braced for noise or intrusion or the next decision. Nothing happened. She exhaled. In the other room, Eli turned off the tree lights and left the hall light on a small triangle of safety under the door. Outside, the storm kept tearing at the city. Inside the apartment, the radiators hissed and ticked. Maddie snored softly, a small sound under the bigger ones. Kate stared at the ceiling until her eyes blurred. At some point, without meaning to, she slept. The smell woke her before the light did. Kate surfaced slowly, caught between a dream of snow and the feel of a warm mattress under her back. For a second, she could not place the ceiling above her. It was low, a little cracked in one corner, painted in off-white that had seen better days. The room was too small to be hers, too quiet to be the house she slept in alone. Voices drifted in from the other room, a child's whisper, a man's reply. Then the faint sound of a pan scraping the low hiss of something meeting hot metal. She turned her head. On the chair beside the bed, someone had folded a t-shirt and a pair of drawstring pants. A note lay on top in small, blocky letters. "You can borrow these. They are clean from Maddie." Kate sat up slowly. Her muscles protested. At some point in the night, she had curled herself into tight lines. Now she uncurled, feeling each joint in turn. The socks were still on her feet. She changed the clothes hanging a little loose but soft against her skin, then opened the bedroom door. The apartment felt different in morning. Light leaked around the edges of the curtains, washing the walls in a soft gray. The tree lights were off. The television was dark. The radiator buzzed a low, constant sound under everything else. In the kitchen area, Eli stood at the stove. He wore a t-shirt and sweats, hair still damp from a quick shower. Maddie sat on a chair by the counter leg, swinging, watching the pan with solemn interest. "What are you doing?" Kate asked. Maddie spun around. "Snowmen," she said. Eli flipped something in the pan. "Pancakes in theory," he said. "Snowmen if I do not ruin the middle part." On the counter, a plate already held one specimen. 2 small circles under one larger one, stuck together with syrup. Chocolate chips for eyes. A smear of jam for a scarf. The second one did not fare as well. The middle circle tore when he tried to slide the spatula under it. He made a face and rearranged the pieces. "Abstract snowman," he said. "Very modern." Maddie giggled. "That one looks like it melted." Kate leaned on the doorway. "I have seen worse." Eli looked over his shoulder. For a half beat, his gaze stayed on her, taking in the borrowed clothes, the bare face, the socks. Something eased around his eyes. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied. "Are you hungry?" he asked. "Could you be in?" She thought of the protein shakes Rachel kept in her office fridge, the rushed croissants, eaten in back seats, meals timed around meetings. Breakfast at an actual table felt like something from someone else's life. "Yes," she said, "I am." He slid 2 snowman pancakes onto a clean plate. "Sit," he said, "before Maddie claims yours too." Maddie already had hers in front of her, dripping syrup. She scooted over to make room at the small table. Kate sat. The chair wobbled slightly before settling. Eli brought the plate, then poured coffee into a chipped mug and set it near her elbow. "Do you take anything in it?" he asked. "Just coffee," she said. He nodded. "Strong it is?" Steam rose in front of her face. She wrapped her fingers around the mug, feeling the heat sink into her skin. The pancakes smelled like vanilla and sugar, and a hint of something else she could not quite identify, not through the storm of memory. Maddie's snowman had already lost its head. She chewed legs swinging under the table. "You snore," Maddie said. Eli choked on his coffee. Kate lifted an eyebrow. "Do I?" "Just a little," Maddie said. "It is kind of cute," Eli said. What she answered. "It is better than saying she sounds like a dragon." Kate put a piece of pancake in her mouth. It was imperfect and warm and sweeter than anything she had had in days. She swallowed. "Dragon might be more accurate," she said. "I breathe fire in meetings." Maddie seemed to consider this. "Do they listen more if you roar?" "Usually," Kate said. "Cool," Maddie breathed. The moment stretched fragile and ordinary. Dishes clinked. The world outside the window remained white and muffled. Then Kate's phone vibrated on the table. The sound cut through the room, small but sharp. Her stomach tightened. She had plugged the phone in before bed. Its screen now lit up with a line of notifications. She wiped her fingers and picked it up. Lines of text stacked over each other. Missed calls. New emails. A calendar alert bright red. Board packet updated, Rachel had written in one. They want to meet early. Today, not after the holidays. Another message from legal, need to address coverage. Stakeholders worried. Her heart rate picked up. The temporary ease she had felt at the table folded itself away. Eli watched her face change. "You have to go," he said quietly. "Yes," she said. She pushed her chair back from the table. The scrape sounded louder than it should have. Maddie's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "You are leaving now?" she asked. "I have a meeting," Kate said. "A very important one." Maddie's shoulders sank the smallest amount. "Oh." Kate hesitated. She had nothing to offer the girl that would not sound like a lie. Time promises anything like that. Lived in a part of her life that had never included small hands and uneven knitting. "Thank you for the socks," she said instead. "They helped." "You can keep them until you do not need them," Maddie said. "Just bring them back when your feet stop being scared." Kate blinked. "My feet." "They got stuck," Maddie said. "In the snow. That means they were scared." Eli cleared his throat. "Go get dressed, Bug. I will walk you to Mrs. Henderson's before I head out." Maddie slid off the chair and padded into her room, already humming. Kate stood in the middle of the small kitchen, holding the phone like a piece of glass. "You can come back," Eli said. "For dinner, when this is not a storm." Maddie would like that. He said it lightly, as if it were an option, and not something that had already lodged itself in the back of his mind. Kate looked at him. The image came fast and unwelcome. This table, this light, her coat on the hook beside his. It felt dangerously like something permanent. "I do not think that is a good idea," she said. He nodded, expression contained, as if he had braced for that answer. "If you change your mind," he said, "you know where I live." She managed a small nod, then went to dress in the bedroom, sliding back into her own clothes. The suit, the coat, the shell she knew how to wear. When she left the apartment, the air outside bit harder than before. The storm had moved on, leaving behind a sky bleached pale and snow piled in tired drifts along the sidewalk. By the time she reached Sterling Dynamics, the building loomed again, glass and steel catching the weak light. The security guard nodded as she passed. His eyes flicked toward the television mounted near his desk. Her photo still ran in the ticker at the bottom of a business channel. She took the elevator up. The boardroom felt colder than the street. The long table gleamed. Chairs were filled. Some faces looked back at her with curiosity, some with thin irritation. No one smiled. Damien sat 3 seats from the head, an open folder in front of him, notes arranged in precise stacks. He wore a navy suit and an expression of measured concern. Richard occupied the seat at the end. His hands rested in front of him, fingers steepled. Kate took her place. "Thank you for coming in on short notice," one of the older board members began. His tie was festive small wreaths on a dark background that did not match the mood. "We have some serious matters to discuss." Damien adjusted his papers. "Sterling Dynamics has always prided itself on stability," he said, "on the reliability of its leadership." The first slide on the screen behind him came up. It showed a graph stock prices over the last quarter. The line dipped slightly in the past week. "Market sentiment is sensitive," he went on, "especially in times like these, which is why it is concerning to see headlines that raise questions about our CEO's judgment." He clicked his remote. The next slide filled the screen. The photo from outside Le Ciel expanded to a size that made the pixels visible. Kate and Eli frozen mid-conversation, snow falling around them, the red scarf a sharp streak. No one spoke. The image did that work on its own. "Optics matter," Damien said. "It is not about her personal life. It is about the narrative this feeds. Investors are asking if she is distracted, if she is vulnerable, if someone could be using that to influence her decisions." Kate kept her face neutral. Inside, something tightened hard, then folded. "We all know the market can be cruel," another board member added. "We have to protect the company." "I have not missed a target," Kate said. "Not one. Our numbers are solid. Our pipeline is full. Anyone pretending a photo on a sidewalk changes that is lying to themselves." "We are not questioning your intelligence," Damien said. "We are questioning the risk." He clicked again. Articles appeared. Headlines. Pull quotes. A distraction. A lapse. A fall from the ice. "I move that Ms. Sterling be placed on temporary leave," Damien said. "Effective immediately pending a full review of her recent decisions and their impact on shareholder confidence." The words dropped into the room like stones. Richard did not speak. He did not need to. His silence pressed at the edges. A board member near the middle cleared his throat. Second. Hands went up. 1, 2, 3, more. Those who did not lift their hands kept their eyes on the table, on their notes, on anything but her. "All in favor," the chair said. "Opposed?" Kate did not raise her hand either way. Her fingers lay flat on the polished surface. For a moment she watched the reflection of her own skin there. The same hands that had signed contracts, approved budgets, pulled the company through nights when servers crashed and clients panicked. "The motion passes," the chair said. The words felt oddly quiet considering the way they stripped the air from the space around her. "Effective immediately. Catherine Sterling is placed on administrative leave," he continued. "You will turn over day-to-day operations to the interim committee." Kate stood. Her chair did not scrape. She had learned years ago how to stand up without making a sound. "Understood," she said. She gathered her folder. No one met her eyes as she walked out. The door closed gently behind her. In the parking garage, the air tasted of exhaust and cold concrete. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow. She got into her car and shut the door. For a second, she simply sat, hands on the wheel, staring at the gray wall in front of her. Then the first sound tore out of her. It was not a neat sob, not one of the controlled tears she had occasionally allowed in private. It was a raw, wordless noise that scraped her throat on the way out. She hit the steering wheel with the heel of her hand. Once. Twice. The horn blared once in protest, then stopped. Her breath came fast. The neat box she had built in her chest had cracked, and everything inside pushed against the edges. At the Copper Finch, the television above the bar showed a business channel with the sound off. A red banner crawled across the bottom of the screen. Sterling Dynamics CEO steps aside amid controversy. Nina leaned on the counter polishing a glass that did not need more polishing. Her eyes tracked the caption, then slid to where Eli was stacking plates. "Eli," she said. He did not look up. "In a minute. I need to drop these at 7. Now," she said. Something in her tone made him pause. He set the plates down and followed her line of sight. His own name was not on the screen. That did not matter. The image that followed the text did. Kate at a podium from some older clip talking into microphones. Nina swallowed. They are saying she is on leave. The bar noise dimmed. The clink of cutlery, the low conversations all faded behind the roar in his ears. He took off his apron. "Tell Marco I owe him a shift," he said. "Where are you going?" Nina asked. He grabbed his coat from the hook by the office door. "I am going to say I am sorry to the woman who just lost everything because I walked into her life carrying a tray." The train out of the city smelled like wet wool and old coffee. Eli sat by the window watching the neighborhoods thin into stretches of snow and dark trees. Holiday lights still clung to some porches, their colors blurred by the movement of the car. He got off at the end of the line and caught a bus that ran through a strip of big houses set back from the road. The storm had left the streets uneven plows, carving channels through heaps of white. The bus driver shook his head when Eli pulled the cord. "Not much out here tonight," the man said. "You sure this is your stop?" "Yes," Eli said. "I am sure." He stepped down into the cold. His breath puffed in front of him. The wind cut deeper out here, less broken by tall buildings. Sterling's house rose ahead, a sweep of pale stone behind a black iron gate. The driveway curved through 2 bare trees wrapped with precise strands of white lights. Every bowl burned the same clean color. He walked up to the call box and pressed the button. His gloved thumb left a faint damp mark on the metal. A few seconds later, a voice crackled through the speaker. "Yes, this is Eli Walker," he said. "I work at the Copper Finch. I need to speak with Ms. Sterling." There was a pause. The gate buzzed, then swung inward. The front steps had been shoveled, the stone wet and dark. He climbed them, his shoes squeaking faintly. The heavy front door opened before he could knock. Kate stood there, one hand on the edge of the doorframe. She wore a simple black sweater and dark jeans. No makeup, no armor. Her hair was pulled back in a rough knot. The skin around her eyes was red and a little swollen, as if the night in the parking garage had never fully ended. For a second, they simply looked at each other. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I saw the news," he said, "about the board." Her jaw tightened. "You should be home with your daughter." "I will be," he said. "I needed to see you first." The hall behind her yawned wide, polished floor, reflecting the cold light from a chandelier. The house had the silence of a place that had never learned how to fill itself. He stayed on the threshold. Snow clung to the shoulders of his coat. "I am sorry," he said. "I am sorry that meeting me cost you this. I am sorry I walked into your life carrying a tray and gave them something to use against you." She shook her head once. "This is not about you." "It looks like it is," he said. "On television. In headlines. They are turning you into a story because of a picture with a man who does not belong in their world. This is about power," she said. "About men who do not like a woman who does not ask for permission. About a board that was waiting for any excuse to question me." Her voice had steadied. The trembling softness from his apartment was gone. This was the tone she used in presentations, sharpened by something raw underneath. "All the same," he said, "I want to fix what I can. I can go to the press, tell them it was nothing, that you were never interested in me, that I misunderstood. That will not fix anything," she said. "It will turn you into a spectacle for them. A poor man who thought a woman like me wanted more than one dinner. They will eat that alive." "I do not care what they say about me," he said. "I do," she replied. "I care what they say in front of your daughter, at her school, in your neighborhood." She stepped back a little, leaning her shoulder against the edge of the door. The light from the chandelier caught on the edges of framed photographs on the wall behind her. In some, she was younger, standing beside a man with the same bone structure and colder eyes. "My father wants me to say you are nothing," she said. "That you pushed yourself on me. That I am the victim of your poor judgment. That I regret every second." Eli felt something twist in his chest. "Maybe you should say it," he said. "If it gets them off your back." Her gaze flicked up sharp. "Is that what you think you are? Nothing." He held her eyes. "I think my life is simple compared to yours. I think if throwing me under the bus gives you room to breathe, maybe that is a trait I can live with." A muscle jumped in her jaw. "I am trying to get my company back," she said. "I have to fight people who have been waiting 20 years to prove me wrong. I cannot do that and worry about what they might do to you at the same time. I am one person, Eli. I have limits. I get that, he said. I told myself the same thing when I lost my place in a kitchen. You shrink your world until you can carry it. He took a breath. The cold air cut his throat. But I care about you, he said. More than I meant to. More than makes sense for 2 dinners and a night on my couch. Her fingers tightened on the doorframe. My kid asked me if you were coming back for Christmas, he went on. I did not know what to tell her. I still do not. But I know walking away from this without saying it would feel worse than whatever comes next. She blinked slowly. Tears gathered at the corners of her eyes again, fighting past the training that told them not to. I cannot be what you need, she said finally. I do not know how to be the person who shows up at 10 in the morning with presents. I do not know how to sit at a table and talk about nothing important. I barely know how to hold on to what I built. Maybe you do not have to know yet, he said. Maybe you just have to want to try. Her mouth trembled, then steadied. Right now, I do not have room to try, she said. If I let you in and destroy you in the process that is on me, so you are going to go home. You are going to take care of your daughter. You are going to forget I ever knocked wine on your dress. You knocked wine on my dress, he said quietly. For a moment, something like a smile flickered across her face. It vanished as quickly as it came. If you ever need anything, he said, anything that is not about your board or your stock price, you know where I am. He stepped back. The house loomed behind her, beautiful and hollow. She watched him walk down the steps, her hand still on the door. Snow had begun to fall again, fine and light, dusting his hair and shoulders. When he disappeared between the lit trees, she closed the door and leaned her back against it. The silence inside swallowed her. She slid down until she was sitting on the polished floor in the entryway, knees, drawn up arms wrapped around them. This time, when the tears came, she did not try to stop them. 2 mornings later, the apartment smelled like coffee and toast. The storm had moved on, leaving the city under a bright, cold sky. Sunlight bounced off the piles of snow along the street, too white to look at for long. Eli sat at the kitchen table, a mug between his hands. Mrs. Henderson perched opposite, sweater pulled tight over her shoulders. She will land on her feet, the older woman said. Women like that always do. She should not have to land at all, Eli said. She built that place from nothing. You did not knock her off her perch, Mrs. Henderson said. Somebody was waiting with a broom. He stared into his coffee. I walked into her life at the exact wrong moment. You walked into her life when she needed somebody who was not on her payroll, she said. Sometimes that matters more than you think. He let out a breath. It is over. Whatever that was, it is just me and Maddie again. That is not nothing, she said. I know, he said. It has to be enough. He did not see Maddie standing in the hallway, back pressed to the wall, holding her stuffed rabbit by one ear. She watched his shoulders the way they slumped when he said the words. She watched Mrs. Henderson reach across the table and cover his hand with hers. Enough, he repeated quieter. Later, when he left for the lunch shift, he kissed Maddie's hair at the door, gave her the knock code again for practice, and told her not to open to anyone else. She nodded wide-eyed and solemn. He did not notice the way she studied the lock after he left, or the way she went to the closet and dragged a small cardboard box out from the back corner. The box was taped along one side, the edges softened by handling. It had been on the top shelf for as long as she could remember. Her father rarely touched it. When he did, his face went somewhere she did not know how to follow. She sat on the floor and opened it. Inside lay a hospital bracelet, yellowed a little with time, the plastic stiff. It had her father's last name printed on it and a faded date. Under it lay a folded piece of paper, the ink on the outside blurred by older fingerprints. She opened the letter carefully. The handwriting inside leaned across the page loops and lines that looked tired and sure at the same time. Eli, I am sorry for all of this, for leaving you with more than anyone should have to carry alone, for not being there to see you be a father. I know you will be a good one. You are the kindest man I've ever known. Please do not let what I am doing turn your heart into stone. Do not let my leaving be the reason you stop believing in good things. One day, if the world is not completely broken, you are going to meet someone who sees you the way I do, someone who deserves the way you love. When you do not hide from it. Do not punish yourself or her for what happened to us. Choose love. Choose joy. She deserves you. So, does that baby you are holding. Be gentle with yourself. Love, H. Maddie read the letter twice, lips moving silently over the words. She was too young to understand every line. She understood enough. Her dad was kind. Her mom had said so. Her dad was supposed to pick someone when he found her. He had not picked anyone yet. She tucked the bracelet and the letter back into the box, closed the lid, and hugged it to her chest. Then she put on her warmest coat, shoved her feet into her boots, and slipped out the door, locking it behind her the way she had been taught. The bus driver raised his eyebrows when a small girl in a too-big coat climbed up with a cardboard box and exact change. "Where are you headed, kiddo?" he asked. "Downtown," she said, "to the big shiny building on the news." He squinted. "Lots of shiny buildings." "The one with the S on top," she said. "Sterling Dynamics." He hesitated, then shrugged. "You stay in your seat. No wandering. Deal." "Deal," she said. She watched the city rise around her as they got closer. The buildings grew taller, their glass faces catching the sun. People on the sidewalk moved faster here, heads bent against the cold coats, dark and sleek. At the right stop, she got off and tilted her head back. Sterling Dynamics towered over the block, its logo a silver S near the crown of the building. The glass reflected the sky a hard, bright blue. Inside, the lobby gleamed. Marble floors, high ceilings. A sculpture of twisted metal near the center looked like a ribbon caught in midair. The receptionist behind the desk wore a headset and an expression that said she could sort anything into its proper place. Maddie walked up a box in both hands. "I need to see Ms. Sterling," she said. The receptionist blinked. "Do you have an appointment?" "It is important," Maddie said. "It is about my dad." "Your dad works here?" the woman asked. "He works at a restaurant," Maddie said, "but she knows him anyway." The receptionist opened her mouth, then closed it. For a second, amusement flickered across her face. Then something else, a softness. "What is your dad's name?" she asked. "Eli Walker," Maddie said proudly. Recognition moved behind the woman's eyes. She glanced toward the elevators, then back at the girl holding the box like a mission. "Wait here," the receptionist said. "Do not go anywhere else. I am going to call someone." Maddie nodded. Her boots squeaked on the polished floor as she shifted her weight from foot to foot. A few minutes later, the elevator doors slid open and Rachel stepped out, tablet in hand. She looked around, then down. "You must be Maddie," she said. "How did you know?" Maddie asked. Rachel smiled a little. "Context. And your dad's stories." Maddie held out the box. "This is for Ms. Sterling. My mom wrote something for my dad. She said he should show it to someone who deserves it. I think Ms. Sterling deserves to know." Rachel took the box carefully. "I will give it to her." "I need to tell her something too," Maddie said. "In person. Please." Rachel hesitated. There were a dozen reasons to say no. Security protocols, schedules, the fact that this was very much not how things were normally done. There was also the way Kate had looked when she left the boardroom 2 days ago, and the way her voice had sounded on the phone when she told Rachel to cancel everything that was not life or death. "Wait here," Rachel said again. "I will ask." Upstairs, Kate sat at her desk, the shades half drawn. A cup of coffee had gone cold at her elbow. Papers lay scattered, half read, half rewritten. She was not dressed for a boardroom. She wore a soft sweater and jeans, hair pulled back. She looked like someone waiting to decide what life was going to be now. "Someone is here to see you," Rachel said from the doorway. "If it is another reporter." "No," Kate said. "It is a little girl," Rachel said. "She brought a box." Kate frowned. "A what?" "A box," Rachel repeated. "She says her name is Maddie Walker." The name landed like a small stone in a still pool. "Send her in," Kate said. Maddie stepped carefully into the office boots, leaving small wet marks on the carpet. She held herself straight, both hands wrapped around the cardboard. "Hi," she said. "Hello," Kate replied. "You made it through the snow." The bus driver helped, Maddie said. He said it was okay if I was on a mission. Kate glanced at Rachel, who gave a helpless little shrug and slipped back out, closing the door. Maddie walked to the edge of the desk and set the box down. "My dad does not know I am here," she said. "He would say I am too little, but he is sad and he is not very good at fixing his own sad." The blunt honesty of it stole Kate's breath for a moment. "Your dad is a good man," Kate said. "I know," Maddie said. "That is why I am here." She pushed the box a little closer. "My mom wrote this before she got too sick. She left it for him. He keeps it in the closet." I read it. Kate opened the lid again. The bracelet lay on top. She lifted it gently. The plastic was cool and stiff, the faded ink spelling out Walker Female Infant. Under it, the letter waited. "May I?" Kate asked. Maddie nodded. Kate unfolded the paper. The words tilted across the page lines of apology and hope mingled together. She read each one, the office and the snow and the ruined board meeting falling away for a few minutes. "Do not let what I am doing turn your heart into stone. When you meet someone who deserves the way you love, do not hide from it. Choose love. Choose joy. She deserves you." Kate's throat closed. She had been given many directives in her life. Market goals, profit targets, image management. None of them had sounded like this. She wanted him to be happy, Maddie said. He tries to be, with me. But he still has sad in his eyes sometimes. When you were at our house, he did not look like that. Kate looked up. He smiled, Maddie said. He talked more. He did not think I saw it, but I did. You are very observant, Kate said. Maddie lifted her chin. I think you were happy too. For a little bit. You did not look like the lady on TV. You looked like a person. The words slipped through Kate's defenses with more accuracy than any analyst's report. He told Mrs. Henderson it is just us again, Maddie said. He said that has to be enough. I do not think that is fair. He was supposed to pick someone. My mom said so. She pointed at the letter. He cannot pick if you go away, Maddie said. So, I came to tell you that. Kate looked down at the bracelet in her hand. The plastic circlet weighed almost nothing. It felt heavier than any silver she had worn. Thank you for showing me this, she said quietly. Will you come back, Maddie asked. Not to fix his job stuff, just to have pancakes. And not be alone. Kate could not make that promise yet. The words stuck. I will think about it, she said. Maddie considered this, then nodded. Thinking is good. My dad thinks a lot. Maybe try feeling too. She turned as Rachel reappeared in the doorway. I have to get you home before your dad sends the whole police force after me, Rachel said gently. Maddie picked up her empty box. He is at work, she said. He will not know I was gone if I get back in time. Kate watched as Rachel led her out. When the door closed again, she sat very still. The bracelet lay on her desk. The letter rested beside it, open to the lines that felt carved into her chest. That evening, the Copperfinch quieted after the dinner rush. The hum of conversation thinned. A server reported a missing wallet at one of the earlier tables. Marco asked Nina to check the security footage. She slipped into the small back office, the one with the humming computer and the faint smell of old paper. She clicked through the camera feeds, scrubbing back and forth through hours of recordings. People came and went. Plates appeared and vanished. Nothing looked out of place. Then she reached the timestamp from Christmas Eve. She saw herself younger by a few days and a lifetime carrying menus to the corner table. She saw Eli behind her tray in hand approaching the executives. She saw Damien push back his chair and rise his hand already in his pocket. His phone glowed. For a split second his eyes flicked toward the camera, then he shifted his weight. He stepped back directly into Eli's path. The collision was small but precise. The tray tilted. The wine rose. She watched the spill again. Then she rewound further. There, Damien standing near the bar a few minutes earlier, his phone in front of him. He angled it toward the room, then toward the path between kitchen and table. He checked the screen, smiled, and moved into position. Nina sat back. Her heart beat faster, the pulse loud in her ears. She exported the clip fingers, moving quickly on the keys, then grabbed her phone. Marco, she said the moment he picked up. What now, he asked. You need to see this, she said, and so does she. Within an hour, the file sat in the inbox of a lawyer, whose name Rachel had written on a note and slid onto Kate's desk. By morning, it had been forwarded to a different set of screens entirely. Compliance officers, external investigators, people who traced lines not between plates and tables, but between dates and trades. The pattern that emerged had nothing to do with romance. There were emails between Damien and a small cluster of board members, carefully worded but suggestive. There were meeting recordings where he had pressed for changes that would have made Sterling Dynamics vulnerable to outside acquisition. There were trade records showing a suspicious volume of short positions taken by funds connected to him, timed neatly with drops in the company's share price. He had not been trying to protect the company. He had been setting it up. 2 days later, news cameras gathered outside the glass lobby of Cole Capital. Damien walked through them in a dark coat, his tie still perfect, wrists ringed with metal. Flashes popped. Questions flew. Mr. Cole, did you manipulate trades? Is it true you tried to stage a hostile takeover? Did you set up the Sterling photo to discredit her? He kept his chin up, but his face had gone a shade paler. In her kitchen, Kate watched the footage on her television sound low. The same glass doors that had once reflected her own image as a cautionary tale now reflected his. The bracelet rested cool against her palm. The letter lay open on the table, the words a quiet counterpoint to the noise on the screen. The story had shifted. The question waiting now was what she would do with the space that shift had created. The boardroom looked different, with the lights turned down and every screen glowing with evidence that was not about her. On the wall behind the long table, the clip from the Copperfinch played in silence. Damien on his feet, phone in hand, the calculated step back. Eli's tray tipping, the wine leaping. No one spoke. The soundless fall of the red arc said enough. Another clip followed. audio from an internal meeting where Damien pressed for changes in capital structure that would have opened the company to a low-price buyout. Then spreadsheets showing his fund's positions in Sterling Dynamics shorting the stock before every rumor he had helped feed. Kate watched from her chair. Her hands rested flat on the table palms, cool against the polished wood. "This is more than poor judgment," the head of legal said. "This is a pattern. He has been attempting to undermine the company from the inside." Eyes turned not to her this time, but to the far end of the table. Richard sat there, tie-straight face composed. For once the silence did not work in his favor. "Mr. Sterling," one of the independent directors said, "we have to ask how much you knew." Richard held his gaze. "I knew he was ambitious," he said. "I did not know he was a criminal." "No one is saying you orchestrated this," the director replied, "but you aligned with him. You used him to build pressure on your own daughter." The word hung in the air. Daughter. Kate kept her face steady. A part of her wanted to laugh. Another part wanted to put her head down on the table and sleep. "We need to restore confidence," the director went on. "That starts with reinstating the leadership that was attacked. It also means removing any doubt that this board is acting in the company's best interest." The motion to reinstate her came from the man who had seconded her suspension. His voice was measured, but it carried. "I move that Catherine Sterling be returned to her position as Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Dynamics, effective immediately," he said, "and that Richard Sterling be removed from the board of directors in light of his relationship with the parties under investigation." The vote was quick this time. Hands rose around the table without as much hesitation. Kate did not speak. When the chair announced the motion had passed, she simply nodded once. Richard looked at her as the meeting broke apart. His eyes were searching for something familiar in her face. She did not offer it. In her office, she closed the door and leaned back against it. The bracelet lay on her desk, the small ring of plastic catching the winter light. The letter sat beside it, folded to the lines that had lodged in her mind. "Choose love. Choose joy." Her phone buzzed with messages she did not open. There would be statements to approve interviews, to dodge lawyers, to consult. For the first time, none of that felt like the most urgent thing in front of her. She picked up the bracelet and slipped it onto her wrist. It was too small to close, but the cool circle of it against her skin was enough. Then she put on her coat and walked out without calling for her driver. The Copper Finch was in that strange lull between lunch and the start of the evening rush. A few late tables lingered. The bar held a pair of regulars and a tired couple sharing fries and quiet companionship. Eli stood at the server station refolding cloth napkins. The television above the bar murmured another loop of Damien's arrest footage. The captions crawled under his image. He did not look up until the front door opened and the room shifted. She stepped in with the cold. Kate wore jeans and a red sweater that fit like it had been chosen for comfort, not for cameras. Her hair was pulled back in a loose tie at the nape of her neck. There was no entourage, no assistant at her shoulder, just snow melting on her coat and the bracelet on her wrist half hidden under the sleeve. Every head turned, then hurriedly turned away again. Forks slowed, conversations frayed. Marco appeared from behind the bar, drying his hands on a towel. His eyebrows climbed before he smoothed them down. "Ms. Sterling," he said, "we did not have you on the books today." "I did not make a reservation," she said. "I am here for something else." Her eyes found Eli at the server station. His heart gave one hard thump. He set down the napkin he was holding and stepped forward, stopping halfway between her and the bar. "Hi," he said. "Hi," she answered. Marco looked from one to the other, then cleared his throat. "If you two need a table, we can set something up in the back." "I do not need a table," Kate said. She lifted her chin slightly. "I need a small audience." Marco blinked. "A what?" "2 minutes," she said. "In the center of the room, no more." He hesitated. The part of him that ran a business calculated risk and disruption. The part that had seen her covered in wine and completely unshaken made its own calculation. He nodded. "Give me a second." He went to the bar, tapped a spoon lightly against a glass. The sound cut through the murmur without being harsh. "Folks," he called, "sorry to interrupt. We have a guest who would like to say something. It will be quick." Eyes turned again. Some recognized Kate immediately. Others recognized her from the screen above the bar. She walked to the open space between the tables and the bar, then turned to face the room. Eli stood to one side near the end of a banquette, hands at his sides. "My name is Kate Sterling," she said. Her voice carried clearly, not in the sharp way she used in boardrooms, but with enough strength to fill the space. Some of you know that already. Some of you could not care less. Either way, I am the woman who got wine spilled on her dress here a few weeks ago. A few people smiled tightly. The memory had rippled far. "One of your servers made a mistake that night," she went on. "He tipped a tray. A glass fell. My dress suffered. That happens in restaurants. That is life. What should have happened next is that I laughed, maybe, swore under my breath, changed, and left a good tip. A small ripple of laughter loosened the air. What I did instead, she said, was decide that my convenience was more important than his dignity. I used him as an excuse to get away from a man I did not want to spend the evening with. I turned a simple accident into a spectacle. I put him in a position where saying no was not really an option. She paused. And then I did not defend him as loudly as I should have when people came for him. Her gaze swept the room, then settled on Eli. That was wrong, she said. Not criminal wrong, not arrest wrong, but human wrong. And before I stand in front of another camera or sign another document, I needed to come here and say that to his face. And to all of you. A quiet had settled over the dining room. The couple at the bar had stopped eating. Nina stood in the doorway to the kitchen, hand still on the swinging panel. You did not deserve the names they called you, she said to Eli. You did not deserve to be turned into a punchline or a cautionary tale. You are not a symbol of anything except a man doing his job and trying to keep a kid in boots and school supplies. Eli swallowed. His throat felt tight. You did not have to come here, he said. Yes, she answered. I did. She lifted her left hand. The bracelet caught the light as it slid down her wrist. Your daughter came to see me, she said. She rode a bus across town with this. She walked into my company like she belonged there and handed me a box with a letter inside it, a letter your wife wrote you before your daughter was born. A murmur moved through the room. A few people shifted, embarrassed at the intimacy of it. Kate did not look away. In that letter, she said your wife asked you not to let what happened to you turn your heart into stone. She told you that one day you would meet someone who deserved the way you love. She told you to choose joy when that happened, even if you were afraid. Her voice thinned on the last words, but she held the line. I have spent the last 20 years making decisions based on fear, she said. Fear of being weak, fear of being used, fear of being seen as anything other than perfectly in control. It got me a company, it got me a reputation. It also got me a life where my house is full of furniture and completely empty of people. She drew a breath. This morning, the board at Sterling Dynamics voted to return that company to me, she said. They saw the evidence. They watched the same tape you just watched on the news. They removed the man who tried to pull us apart, and they removed my father from the position he abused. I have my job back. I have more control than I have ever had. She looked at Eli again. In the quiet, he could hear his own heartbeat. But standing here, she said, that is not the thing that matters most. What matters is that somewhere between a glass of spilled wine and a broken car on a frozen street, I met you. And you and your daughter showed me a kind of strength I did not understand. The kind that does not come from a title or an account balance, but from showing up every day anyway. Her eyes shone. She did not blink the tears away this time. I walked away from that when things got hard, she said. I told myself it was necessary, that you were safer without me, that I was safer without you. I have been wrong before. I rarely admit it. I am admitting it now. She took one small step closer. I am done being scared, she said. I am done letting other people decide what my life is supposed to look like so they can sleep better at night. The room had narrowed to the space between them. Even the kitchen had fallen silent. So, she said, I am asking you something, in front of all these people who saw the beginning of this mess. Is that dinner invitation still open? The one with pancakes and burned garlic bread, and a kid who talks with her whole face? Would Maddie still let me sit at your table? Eli exhaled a breath he had not known he was holding. We are doing Christmas dinner tomorrow, he said. His voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. Nothing fancy. Cinnamon rolls, roasted chicken, Mrs. Henderson from next door, who brings pie and too many stories. You would be welcome. A slow smile unfolded across her face. It softened her features in a way he had seen only once before, in the dim light of his living room. Really, she said. Really, he answered. For a beat, no one moved. Then someone at the bar began to clap. It spread uneven at first, then gathering until the whole room was applauding. It was not the smooth, polite applause of an earnings call. It was messy and warm and a little too loud for the space. Kate flushed color rising under her skin. She ducked her head, then lifted it again. Marco caught Eli's eye and jerked his chin toward the door. Go, he mouthed. I will cover your tables. Eli stepped around a chair and crossed the last few feet between them. Let me walk you out, he said. They pushed through the door together into the cold. Snow had started again, a fine dust settling over the sidewalk. The city sounded far away, car noise muffled by the flakes. For a few seconds they simply stood there, The restaurant windows threw a wash of warm light onto the street behind them. "I never stopped thinking about you," he said quietly, "even when I told myself I should. I tried to make myself stop," she said. "It did not work." She glanced at his coat pocket. "Do you still have the scarf?" He pulled it out. The red yarn was a little more worn now, a few threads fuzzed from use. He held it out. "She will want to see you wearing it tomorrow," he said. Kate took it and wrapped it around her neck, fingers moving more surely this time. "I am here," she said. "I am not leaving because someone gets uncomfortable, not this time." The snow fell between them, soft and steady, catching in her hair and on his lashes. Behind the glass, the tree in the corner of the copper finch glowed in reflected reds and golds. For the first time since the wine had flown through the air, Eli felt something in his chest loosen, in a way that did not hurt. Christmas morning came bright and sharp. Sunlight bounced off the snowdrifts outside Eli's building, so strong it made the windows glow. The city noise was softer than usual, as if even traffic understood it was supposed to slow down. Inside the apartment, the air smelled like cinnamon and coffee. The oven hummed. A tray of store-bought cinnamon rolls rose under a thin towel on the counter, waiting for their turn. Maddie crouched in front of the tree in her pajamas, inspecting the gifts with the solemn focus of a detective. She tapped each one, guessing again what might be inside, even though she had already done it the night before. "Books," she said, pointing at a rectangular package with her name on it. "And art stuff. And this one is socks." "Not everything is socks," Eli said from the kitchen. "Socks are important," she replied. He stood at the stove, turning bacon slowly in the pan. The radio on the counter played low, an old carol barely louder than the sizzle of meat. On the back burner, a pot of coffee kept warm. Someone knocked at the door. 3 quick, 2 slow. Maddie straightened. "That is us," she whispered. Eli wiped his hands on a towel and crossed the small room. He checked through the peephole anyway. Habit. Then he opened the door. Kate stood in the hallway with a paper bag in each arm and a small wrapped box tucked under one elbow. Her cheeks were pink from the cold. The red scarf was looped around her neck, the ends tucked into her coat. Snow dusted her shoulders, melting in small wet spots. "You are early," Eli said. "You said 10, she replied. "It is 10. Her mouth curved. He felt it like a lift in his chest. "Come in," he said. She stepped inside. The apartment's warmth reached for her at once. The smell of bacon and cinnamon wrapped around her like another layer. Maddie appeared behind Eli, bare feet on the worn floorboards. "You came," she said. "I did," Kate said. "I brought food, so your dad does not have to cook everything." She lifted the bags as proof. Maddie considered this. "Good idea," she said. "Sometimes he burns the garlic bread." "Which is not on the menu today," Eli said. "Lucky you." He took the bags from Kate and carried them to the counter. Inside were fresh vegetables, a whole chicken, herbs wrapped in paper, and a small carton of heavy cream. "You did not have to bring all this," he said. "I wanted to contribute," she said. "I am good with budgets. I can learn my way around a roast." He smiled quieter this time. "Then you are on potato duty." She rolled up the sleeves of her sweater and washed her hands at the sink. The faucet rattled a little when she turned it on. The water ran cold at first, then warmed. Maddie dragged a chair over to the counter and climbed up. "I can peel," she announced. "You can watch," Eli said, "and maybe mash later." They worked together in a rhythm that found itself. Eli seasoned the chicken, sliding herbs under the skin, hands moving with unconscious skill. Kate cut potatoes into even chunks, the knife tapping a steady beat on the cutting board. Maddie lined up the pieces into crooked rows before dropping them into a pot. "Your kitchen is small." "Small," Kate said. "It does the job," Eli replied. "I like it," Maddie said. "You can reach everything without walking a mile." Kate glanced at the refrigerator. The holiday cards pinned there were handmade, most of them Maddie's. A drawing of a snowman that looked slightly like a potato, a star with too many points, a crayon Santa with blue boots. "Where do you keep your takeout menus?" Kate asked. "Top drawer," Eli said. "Beside the spoons?" She opened it and saw a fan of folded papers, corners softened by use. Names of diners, pizza places, a Chinese restaurant, with grease stains on the edge of its flyer. It looked like a map of all the days he had come home too late and too tired to cook, but had made sure there was food anyway. They put the chicken in the oven. Eli slid the tray of cinnamon rolls onto the rack above it. Sugar and fat began to melt, filling the apartment with a smell that even his dulled senses could catch. Mrs. Henderson arrived with a pie balanced carefully in both hands and a scarf tied over her hair. "Merry Christmas," she said, her voice bright. "I brought sugar and complaints about my knees." "We have chairs for both," Eli said. He made introductions. Kate shook the older woman's hand, the bracelet on her wrist catching the kitchen light. "So this is the one Mrs. Henderson said." Eli coughed. "The one what?" "The one your kid marched across town to recruit," she said. "You raised a determined child, Mr. Walker." Kate's eyes widened. "He did not know she came to see me." "No," Mrs. Henderson said, "but he knows now." Eli looked at Maddie. She gave him a guilty half-smile that slid quickly into a hopeful one. "We will talk later," he said lightly. She nodded, still smiling. They ate cinnamon rolls first, served on mismatched plates. Icing stuck to fingers. Maddie got some on her nose. Kate reached across the table with a napkin, hesitated, then gently wiped it away. Maddie did not flinch. "Thanks," Maddie said. "I could not see it, but I knew it was there." "I know the feeling," Kate said under her breath. Eli heard. He did not comment. He just refilled her coffee. Presents came next. Maddie tore paper with the joyous disregard of a child who had waited for this morning since the radio started playing carols. Books, colored pencils, a new set of mittens. The sketchbook made her eyes shine. "I am going to draw everything she said. The tree, the snow, the building with the S. Your house." "We will need more paper," Eli said. "I will buy some," Kate offered. "You already bought the potatoes," he said. She reached for the small box she had brought and pushed it across the floor to Maddie. "For you," she said. "From me." Maddie picked it up carefully, as if it might be fragile. The paper was thick and smooth, the bow small and neat. She untied it with slow fingers. Inside was a set of watercolor paints, 12 vibrant blocks in a tin with 2 brushes nestled alongside. "Real paints," Maddie breathed, "not the kind from the dollar store." "A friend of mine designs packaging for an art company," Kate said. "I made a call." Maddie touched the colors, then pulled her hand back as if afraid they might disappear. "Thank you," she said. Her voice had gone small and sincere. "I am going to paint you something. Not now. It has to be perfect." "I look forward to it," Kate said. After the wrapping paper had been gathered and stuffed into a bag for recycling, after Mrs. Henderson's pie had been tasted, and praised after the chicken was carved, and the potatoes mashed, and the plates cleared, the light outside began to shift. Afternoon stretched toward evening. The snow outside the windows took on a blue tint. At some point, Maddie disappeared into her room with the watercolors and a handful of blank paper. The adults let her go. The sounds of her humming drifted out now and then. When she came back, her hair was a little wilder, and her hands had faint smudges of color on the fingers. "I made this," she said, clutching a page to her chest. "You have to open it together." She handed the paper to Kate and Eli at the same time. For a second, their hands overlapped. They unfolded it carefully. The picture showed 3 figures holding hands in front of a Christmas tree. The tree leaned slightly, but glowed with yellow dots and red blobs. One figure was tall with brown hair. One was medium with yellow hair and a bright red scarf. The smallest had a mass of dark curls and a smile that took up half her face. Above them, in uneven letters, Maddie had written 2 words. "Our family." Kate stared at the page. The paint bled a little where she had pressed the brush too hard. The colors were not contained inside every line. The tree trunk was too short. The proportions were off. It was the most accurate thing she had seen in a very long time. She felt the heat behind her eyes again. This time she did not look away. Eli looked from the paper to Maddie. "You sure?" he asked, his voice low. Maddie nodded. "You said she is here," she said. "She is not leaving. That sounds like family." Kate looked at Eli. His expression was open in a way it had not been in all the weeks she had known him. There was still tiredness in it, still worry, but there was something else now, a piece of trust offered carefully. "Our family," Kate said. The words felt unfamiliar, then right. "If you both want that." Maddie threw her arms around Kate's waist, without waiting for more discussion. Kate froze, then folded down, wrapping her arms around the small body, with a motion that felt both new and like something she had been ready to do for years. Eli watched them, one hand still holding the drawing. Later, when Mrs. Henderson went home with her pie dish and her jokes, when the dishes were stacked on the counter to soak, when the radio had clicked off on its own, Maddie fell asleep on the couch. The blanket had slipped to her knees. One paint streak still marked the edge of her wrist. Eli lifted her, carefully tucking her into bed, smoothing the blanket around her shoulders. She murmured something about reindeer and watercolor, then sank deeper. He came back to the living room and found Kate standing by the window. The tree lights blinked small pulses of red and green reflected in the glass. Outside, snow fell in slow, lazy flakes, no longer driven by wind. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I am thinking." "Dangerous hobby," he said. She smiled. It was smaller this time, but it stayed. "1 year ago," she said, still looking out at the snow, "I was in my office on Christmas Day arguing about numbers with people who pretended not to mind. 1 year ago I was here," he said. "Just me and Maddie. I told myself that was all there would ever be, that anything else was too much to ask. He stepped closer, standing beside her. Their shoulders almost touched. "I was not wrong about the numbers," she said, "but I was wrong about the rest." "Same," he said. She turned from the window and leaned lightly into him. He put his arm around her shoulders. It felt awkward for a second, then natural, as if they had been calibrating for this angle without knowing it. The apartment was quiet except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall and the faint hiss of the radiator. The tree lights flicked their pattern again and again, patient. Outside, far across town, the big houses stood in their silent streets. The Sterling place was dark, no lights on the front porch, no tree in the window. Here, in a small room 3 floors up in a building with thin walls and squeaky stairs, warmth pooled. Eli rested his cheek against Kate's hair. She let her head settle against his shoulder. Through the bedroom door, Maddie's soft breathing drifted out steady and sure. Tomorrow there would be work again, meetings and shifts and numbers to line up. Some things would be hard, some things would go wrong. For the first time in a long time, that thought did not feel heavy. He looked at the drawing propped on the shelf beside the television, colors still drying in a few thick spots. 3 figures, 1 tree, a simple claim. He tightened his arm around Kate, feeling her answer in the way she leaned closer. Outside, snow kept falling over Chicago, covering the city in white. Inside, under blinking lights and hand-knit socks and a crooked red scarf hanging from the back of a chair, 3 lives had settled into a shape that felt new and solid. It was not perfect. It was theirs. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.